All right. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up?
What's up? What's up? Not very much. Welcome to this episode of A to G. I believe we're battling some lag or of some sort. So if things don't sound perfect initially, we'll work through them. But how we doing? How we doing this week?
Good.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah. Anything exciting happen?
Not really. Work's work. You know how that goes. So, it is what it is.
Fair enough. Gavin?
Same here, man. I mean, I got back from the mountains last weekend, which is why we weren't recording, but that was fun.
Yes, he did. Forgot about that. Dang, you were, because that's the reason we weren't able to record last week. Also, I guess, by the way, sorry we weren't able to get an episode up last week. But we're back this week. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. We'll try and work around some of our scheduling issues as they come along in life. But, you know, life is life. But we're back this week. And are we ready to get into this week's discussion, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yeah,
sir.
it's going to be a tough one, guys. So let's get through it and discuss what's going on here. It's going to be a difficult topic.
Indeed it is. Topics like this are usually tough to get through, but we will indeed get through them, because that's what we do here on this show. But before we hop into today's episode, obviously I got to remind you guys to like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get a movement started, obviously. So we're looking really forward to seeing how this channel develops and how we're able to influence maybe different ways of thinking in the lives of our listeners as it pertains to topics like this. So feel free to like, share, subscribe. Thank you to those of you who are listening to this live on YouTube or Twitch right now, or if you're listening to it tape recorded on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcasting platforms. Thank you to you as well. Your listenership and viewership are very, very appreciated. But with that said, I think we should hop into it, shall we, guys?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let us get started right about now. So, our topic for this week, assuming you've already read the title, which you probably have, is the Tyre Nichols incident. So, effectively, what happened is on January 7th at around 8:30 p.m., officers pulled over a vehicle for suspected reckless driving. A quote-unquote confrontation occurred between the 5 officers and the vehicle's driver, who was later identified as 29-year-old Tyre Nichols, who then fled on foot before being apprehended. After his apprehension, another confrontation occurred, resulting in Nichols' arrest, police said. An ambulance was called to the scene of the arrest after Nichols complained of shortness of breath, and he was later transported to a nearby hospital in critical condition. And 3 days later, on January 10th, 3 days after the stop, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation announced that Nichols had died due to the injuries he sustained in a use of force incident with officers, presumably during that second confrontation that he had with officers. Nichols was a FedEx worker and a father of a 4-year-old child. Following the police traffic stop, the officers involved were relieved of their duties, and a standard departmental procedure began as an investigation into their use of force. And on January 18th, the Department of Justice said a civil rights investigation had also been opened up into the death of Nichols. And later on January 20th, the 5 officers involved in the incident were fired. And on January 26th, they were each charged with second-degree murder, aggravated assault, 2 charges of aggravated kidnapping, 2 charges of official misconduct, and 1 charge of official oppression. One of the officers actually, interestingly enough, had been previously accused of using excessive force on an inmate during his time as a corrections officer back in 2015. But aside from that, the most intriguing issue in this instance of police brutality is that all 5 of the officers who were charged in this incident were African American. So I'm going to open it up to you guys here. And Andreas, why don't you go first? Explain to us what you think about this whole situation.
Well, I think that this is just a tragic event, just to begin with. I reviewed the videos as soon as they got released yesterday, probably a couple hours after they got released, because I watched it after work. But it wasn't necessary. But it's just what happens with these incidents. There's a saying that I have heard many times. It's that any law at the end of the day is going to be enforced with a bullet. And in this case, that law there wasn't enforced with bullets. It was enforced with fists, batons, and kicks. So even though reckless driving is couple $100 fine, and potentially a small amount of jail time. That minor law was still enforced with violence at the very end of the day. And so it was a very tragic event. But we will in a bit here, after a couple minutes, start and review the videos with you guys, the audience, so that you guys can see what we saw, and you guys can come up with your own conclusions about the use of force, if it was too much, if it was too little, if you guys think that these people, these officers are guilty of second-degree murder or not. But just so that you guys are informed, and then we're going to end off and discuss, as we do every week, discuss what we should take from this as Christians. So before we get started here with the video, Gavin, do you have anything you want to say preliminarily before we start the video and talk about it? And warning for viewers, it is graphic and there is harsh language, but
say that.
Yeah, but without watching the video, you're not informed. And I think we talked about a few weeks ago that really understanding about what you're talking about before you talk about something is important. So we think it's important that you see it and you can discuss it clearly and intelligibly after reviewing the evidence on your own. Gavin?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that viewer discretion warning is advised. It's like listening to the dialogue between Tyre and the officers is just horrifying. Hearing his cries for help, him trying to talk to the officers saying, "Hey, this is too much." It's horrible to watch. But that's the only thing that I really want to add on. It's incredibly painful to watch. So, viewer discretion advised. But let's get into it.
Okay. Yep. Chris, do you have anything you want to say before we put this on screen? I'm trying to stall at least a minute and 30 seconds more, if you can do that.
Yeah.
I want to get to that little live 10-minute mark before we put it on the screen.
No, yeah, that's a good point. I don't really have anything else in particular to add. I mean, I will say that initially I was a tad bit surprised by the amount of charges that the officers received, because I'm not a huge legal expert in and of myself. But I mean, let's see here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charges, like different types of charges. So that struck me a little bit. That's surprising. So clearly this is a very serious incident. If you're going to give each of these officers 5 different charges relating to this incident. But with that said, I mean, let's go ahead and hop in. Again, I'll reiterate that it has graphic content and there is some crude language involved. Some might be an understatement. But I think let's hop in. Why not?
Okay, let's do it. Okay, it is what it is. Here we go. 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, so
45 seconds.
So this is the first video. I'm stalling the best I can here, and this is the initial pulling over of Tyre, and then him being pulled from the car, and that first initial police encounter. So we can see what happens here. And we can see how the officers respond. We might not watch all of it. We might just, leave once Tyre leaves and runs away. But we might not, depending on how we feel we need to proceed with the video. We've got 30 seconds here. I'm just going to read out this thing here out loud. It says, "Warning, the following video contains footage from the Memphis Police Department officer's body cam. Footage contains graphic content and language some might find offensive. And yes, viewer discretion is advised." So
I guess I'll do my best, because for the people who are probably listening to this post-recorded on audio, I guess I'll probably do some sort of an attempt to demonstrate what's happening. But yeah.
Live color commentary. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Here we go. So this appears to be the one of the officers. He's in his car, his cop car. He's just driving so far. What's the time say at the top there? Does it say 1:07 a.m.?
Yeah, something 20:24. So what is that? That's 8 p.m. 8:30ish.
Yeah, around the
I do want
thighs.
to add on too that this was not one of the officers charged. The video that we're seeing right now, this was not one of the officers that was charged.
Okay,
Oh.
so this is another officer.
This is another officer.
Something I learned from potentially criminal Sean, PC Sean for short, is that this is an unmarked police vehicle. So some of the response that Tyre might be exhibiting is because this is an unmarked vehicle, and there has been warnings in Memphis about not real police officers pulling people over and hijacking their cars.
Yeah,
so that's something that should be made aware of.
Okay, so he's pulled him over here. It looks like they're at a stoplight. He's in the left-hand turn lane.
Damn, I didn't do anything.
Let me see if I can turn that volume down.
Yeah, so he's saying he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
They're starting to pull him out of the car now at this moment in time.
Let me see. How do I turn this volume down here, guys?
It's on the bottom right of the video.
Bottom right?
Yeah.
No, that's just the
corner.
play. There it is. Okay. That was pretty loud for me. If you guys think it's not loud enough, let me know. But I couldn't hear Chris.
Fair enough.
Okay, here we go.
Alrighty, so a lot of camera shaking.
Okay, so they're wrestling with the suspect here.
So it looks like they have him right now on the ground.
Yeah, but he's not stopping resisting.
No, so he's still kind of resisting. He's kind of slowed it a little bit here. He's kind of just resisting, not in a super violent way. He's just kind of resisting their attempts to handcuff him, it looks like.
Yeah, which is something you shouldn't be doing.
No.
Just in general. You know, you deal with an unlawful arrest later in the courts. You don't deal with it on the roadside because that's just asking for something bad to happen.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Okay.
So it looks like he's trying to get up.
Yep, and he's tased,
So
and then he
tased him.
runs
He's now-
off.
Yeah, so now he's running away. So he's in the left-hand turn lane. He runs down the street to the left where he was trying to turn. Officers are starting to chase him now. They're still chasing
One
him.
thing I do want to add on to really quickly,
pause for a
since this
second.
is about the end of the important part, but like he's running that way because his lawyers added on later that his mom's house is that way. He was apprehended at the end about 100 meters from his mom's house, so he was running that way to get home.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that too. Okay. Okay, let's continue.
So we're continuing with the video now. They're still chasing him.
So then they're giving up on that chase.
Mhm.
They're going to gather back here. I'm just fast forwarding a little bit because we don't need to see them panting a bit. And
Yep.
they are. We'll see here later that they did attempt to pepper spray him because you see that officer there has pepper spray in his eyes, and so they're trying to recover from that. So they all got kind of side sprayed when they sprayed Tyre.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they struggled with that for a while, skipping forward. They're talking about how they did tase him. And they're talking there. There's another, I think that's a police officer there. See how it's an unmarked vehicle?
Yep. Mhm.
There's
That's
no
one.
indication on that vehicle about it being a Memphis police vehicle. At least not that I can see. I don't know if you guys see anything on there, but I don't. Personally, I disagree with using unmarked police vehicles to pull people over for traffic violations. I remember even in driving school, when I was a teenager, they said, if there's if somebody's trying to pull you over without markings, you shouldn't pull over for that. So if that's what the driving school's saying, this is I disagree with that action, right? There's no information that this is a real cop.
Exactly. And that's the tough thing with unmarked cars, right? Is because they're trying to make themselves blend in more to the regular flow of traffic in life. And at the same time, they're also kind of making it more worrisome for the people they're trying to pull over, whether the people they're trying to pull over have bad intentions or not. It's just concerning to see a car that you can't prove is a police car pulling you over. So I get the point of unmarked cars, but I'm probably definitely in alignment here with Andreas. It's tough. It's tough.
Oh, absolutely. It's literally secret police. There's nothing about that like nothing about an unmarked, like it's just invites violence pretty much or abuses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I agree with potentially criminal Sean. I think in his video, he was saying that those undercover cars are really only good for if you're driving up to a crack house and you're going to go in and apprehend people in there because you don't want to pull up in a police cruiser. So I think that's really the only use for it is when you're doing undercover work. You shouldn't be using an unmarked police vehicle, in just general use, right, for traffic. I strongly disagree with the officers there and that department. That's something that should be changed, and to prevent things like this from happening, right? Because he had no idea. I keep saying it, he had no idea potentially that these were legitimate officers, right? If we scroll back, I think one of the officers was wearing just a hoodie, right? Is that significant of what a normal police officer wears? How's he supposed to know that that's an officer? That's just my thought. Something's happened here.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we know if that's a department decision or if that's like a decision made by the state? But who makes the decision what police departments carry unmarked cars and how many of them they have?
I think that's got to be a department decision. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Fair enough. Shall we continue?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
Okay. So let's see here. Is there anything else that's important here? He finds his glasses, which he lost in the scuffle.
He can see again.
Yeah.
That's an important development.
Okay, so then here's another cop.
Yep.
I think this cop's going to ask him where they went. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think this is all that's important in this video. They're collecting some things off the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. Do you guys remember anything else in this video that's of significance?
I don't think so. I didn't see the initial body cam video when I was doing my research. More so, I saw the street security camera video from when they actually had the second confrontation, the one where he ended up getting beaten up pretty bad. But I don't know. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should go to that one next.
We'll go to that one next. Yeah.
Because that's kind of where the meat of this story happens. Because this is the initial altercation, right? This is the first one before the main one that really does him serious health harm occurs.
Yep. Hey, Chris, do you want to shill while I set up the next video here?
Shill. I can do my best. I can try and shill. So while we're getting this this next video set up, just I guess initial thoughts, Gavin. What are we thinking when you see this? What's the first thing that kind of crossed your mind?
The first thing that crossed my mind was that there were two officers trying to get a guy who violated a traffic law to get out of his car by force. They were shouting at him like basically like the human equivalent of dogs barking angrily, pretty much. And it was over a traffic violation. It just doesn't really add up to me. And I can understand like after like resisting that might make more sense. But just that initial show of force was just appalling. And then going into like the actual like wrestling with him on the ground, you can hear him multiple times. I have some of the things that he says. It's like the officers pull up and both of them are trying to get him out of the car at this point. And he's saying, damn, I didn't do anything. And when they're barking at him to get out of the car, he's like, all right. But as they're shoving him to the ground, they're like, hey, no, you don't do that, okay? And it's just, you can hear his human emotion in there. And it's just like, you can hear him be like, whoa, this is not normal. And I think that like, that should have been his guard to just kind of go with it. Things could have gone really badly. Like Andreas said, don't resist arrest, fight it in the courts later. Don't get yourself killed, like in this instance. But that's just what my initial reaction was. It's just Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be doing that. It's never a good recipe for success to, regardless of whether you're actually at fault for something serious or not, to resist an officer's commands. So I definitely don't think that this is a situation that he really needed to be in, because he only really violated a traffic law based on what that body cam kind of shows. But at the same time, brother, just humor them. Just help yourself. Get out the car. I know you didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't look like, but I mean, just help yourself, because you don't want to put people in a position to feel afraid, or put them in a position to where they feel like they need to use extra force, even if it's not necessary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andreas, you got that video up?
I do have it. I just have something to say there before we put it up. When I was doing the research for this video, I heard or read or something. I don't remember if I heard or read it. That the suspect here, Tyre, he had been doing some very aggressive driving while these cops were trying to pull him over, like blocking him, trying to get the vehicle to hit his car. I don't know if that's true or not. But that would explain some of the officers' behavior. But still, you shouldn't be doing things like that if that is true. And if it's not true, then well, it is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're in one of the body cam videos. I think it's the one where it's the officer who batons Tyre. They do talk about it towards the end of the video. One of the officers, like, he was swerving. He like, we were telling him over the loudspeaker to stop, pull over, and he gets in the left-hand turn lane. So that might explain a little bit more of their aggressive actions.
Well, I mean, that is why they pulled him over, right, for suspected reckless driving. So that would make sense. But yeah, I mean, still, nonetheless, right? So
right, because if he's on drugs, or if he's high, drugs, drunk or whatever, right? You don't know what you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
Still,
humans being humans.
Let's look at the second video here.
Yep. So this is the street cam footage, I believe, from the second altercation where the actual harm, the big harm was done.
Yeah.
So again, I'll do my best to commentate play by play.
Okay, I think it starts at like 5 minutes, so let's just skip there. Right?
Yeah.
Oh no, here it is.
It turns over right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Nice. So at this point, this is about 3 minutes later. It looks like I'm seeing 8:33.
Yeah. It's.
So they've gotten him now. It looks like they're trying to. Yeah, they've got him on the ground. They're trying to handcuff him again, it looks like.
Yeah.
He's still resisting.
He's still resisting.
A little bit more calm now while they're trying to put the handcuffs on him, but he's still resisting their attempt to do so.
Yeah.
Watch the guy coming up.
And you notice that he's not allowing him to put his arms behind his back. And there's a kick right there to the face.
Yeah, so seemingly completely unwarranted, one of the officers comes up and just kicks him in the face. I don't know. When I saw that for the first time, I was like, okay, buddy. Just the first 30 seconds, I was like, okay, so far this just looks like a guy who's resisting arrest and he's being difficult. Then this guy comes up and just kicks him for no random reason. I'm like, oh.
Well, let's talk about that kick there for a second. So I was listening to Potentially Criminal Sean. Shout out to Potentially Criminal Sean, PC Sean.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he's a lawyer. He's out of Cleveland, Ohio, and he talks about criminal stuff. And he was talking about how that each one of those kicks is lethal force. So that officer that's performing that kick there needs to justify his use of lethal force for every single time he kicks this individual.
Yeah.
So that means that this guy, if you guys have read Andrew Bonka's book, The Law of Self-Defense, that guy needs to the threat there, the guy on the ground who doesn't seem like a huge threat, right?
Exactly.
That guy needs to be showing a deadly threat, of serious bodily injury or death in the moment that the officer is providing deadly force. So if we scroll back here and we watch that kick again, right here,
he's on the ground.
He's on the ground. Are you seeing a deadly force threat from that guy when the guy right here is going to come up and kick him, right?
No.
He's going to come, he's kicking. Do you guys see the guy reaching for a gun from the officers or doing anything that indicates a deadly force threat to any one of those 3 officers? I guess there's 4 officers. There's this guy over here in the corner. You see my
behind the cop
mouse.
cars.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
but no.
I don't see a deadly force threat to any one of these 4 officers. So I think that kick is use of deadly force unjustifiably in the situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. He's already got 2 officers on him. They've kind of got him pinned against the pavement. And the officer just comes up. He stops for like a second or two, doesn't he? He stops for like a brief second, and then he kicks him.
Yeah.
And really nothing has changed. So, yeah, I think you'd be hard-pressed to come up with an explanation as to why you used a kick, which is a very
Deadly force.
lethal. Yeah, it's lethal force. It's a very lethal use of your body. Your legs are pretty big. Most people's legs are pretty big, last I checked. You
Yeah.
don't use those to assault somebody if unless you feel like you're actually being threatened. So,
Right. Even to stop this guy that's resisting, right?
Mhm.
Right. And that's their goal, right? Is to cuff him. And I don't think using deadly force to facilitate arrest is justified here.
No.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk about each incident as it comes up and see, in our opinion, if this is justified or not justified. But that first kick is definitely not justified, in my opinion. And I think that the opinion of the panel, even though I can't speak for them. So let's keep going.
All right, so we already have the kick. He stops. So now he's got 3 officers on him. The 2 are trying to put the handcuffs on him. The other one's
Okay,
just
so
kind
now
of
that guy's still resisting. They
And he
tried to
goes
put his
right
arm behind his back,
Yeah, I think
and
he kicked
it
him again,
didn't
didn't
work. I didn't see it.
You did, yeah.
Okay.
It was a softer kick, but it was still a kick.
Okay.
It was
I'm
a heel to the head.
I'm paying attention to multiple things here, so I'm trying to see the best I can see. But but he's still resisting, and if there was a second kick, then you got to justify that second kick again, which I don't think you can. So now he's breaking out the baton. The guy's standing up. He's still not cuffed, and he hits him. I don't see where he hits him. If he's hitting him in the head, I think that's deadly force.
I think he's hitting him on the back and on the side.
Yeah,
So
on
he
the
walks
back
up.
shoulder, yeah.
So we're a little bit behind. What happened is that a 4th officer came up and he brought out his baton and he smacked him, presumably in the back the first time, and then a second time, and then the third time looks like he got him on the right rib cage area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's standing up. He's still resisting. But that's not an excuse to use deadly force. If he's hitting him in the back and the chest, I'm less concerned about those hits, right? But it's still a lot of force to stop this arrest.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Agreed.
I'm more concerned about the deadly force, even though you shouldn't be treating this gentleman this way.
Mm-hmm. Thus far.
Okay, and then he punches him in the head. Did you see that? So they've got his arms restrained, and this third guy right here, I think it was this guy. He just punched him right in the face, which is also a deadly force to hit somebody in the head like that. I don't see justification for that hit either.
No.
Unless you guys do.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Nothing so far.
Okay. Still going. So, there he hits him again.
There's another time.
And then again.
Another one.
So, and then the third time.
And another one.
Now he
falls
falls down.
Punches.
So, this guy made mistakes. He shouldn't have resisted to begin with, but the officers' actions are not justified, at least to my viewing.
No,
what's going on here?
Not thus far. I mean, you can see with each and every hit and punch, he keeps getting less able to move. They're being effective in making him unable to resist them. So the fact that they continue to use aggressive force even continually after their initial few big blows is kind of concerning.
Yeah, but he's still not cuffed, I don't think. Right?
I think so. Let's take a look. It's hard to make out from this angle.
Well, we could see better in the other video.
Mm-hmm.
There's another kick.
Was it? I missed it. Was it this guy right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So now we got, it looks like 5 near him.
Yeah, I think at the end of this, you can count out 10 officers that all end up being around this guy at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So they're still just they're trying to, now that he's kind of being a little bit more unresponsive, they're trying to handcuff him now.
Yeah.
I think they got him
Looks
on.
like they successfully did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's cuffed, they're all kind of walking away.
Yeah. So they backed away. There's really only one officer near him now. Second one, they're kind of just standing up, wandering around him, though. They're not touching him.
Yeah.
He's kind of just rolling over, just like back and forth, like very gingerly.
Yeah.
Yep, and they're shining lights in his face. Is there anything else that happens after this point? I don't remember. I don't think there is.
Nothing too severe. The firemen or the people from the fire department come and set him up against the car. We'll see more of that in the later videos. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's fast forward here. Let's see. Okay, so they're going to move him. So the officers are picking this guy up. And I think you might be wrong there, Gavin. I think they just drag him to the car, if I remember correct.
Oh.
Like across the floor? Yeah, there we go.
Yep, there he goes.
Yeah, and so those are still the police officers. Wow. And then he stays there the rest of the time until he collapses to the ground later. Okay, let's fast forward here. He's still there.
Yeah.
He's still upright on that car. And I think he's fallen over at this point. Okay, let's keep going. There's more police officers. Keep going. Okay. Still there. He's still there. It's been 24 minutes since this started, and he still doesn't have medical attention for real, right? Even if those are EMTs, which I don't think they are. I think they're police.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole swarm of police officers.
Yeah.
No medical, though.
Yeah, I see, I think 1, 2 unmarked cars, and then there is another car out there in the distance.
Yeah.
Off camera.
Okay. And there's the EMTs bringing the stretcher to take this guy away. Okay. And there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you guys have any discussions you want to say about what happened there? While I pull up the next video here.
I mean, it's just like, it almost looks like when they're actually doing the initial beating, it almost looks like gang violence. There's 3 of them surrounding this guy, just beating the crap out of him. 4 punches. He's down on the ground, like 3 or 4 kicks. A guy comes up and beats him with a baton out of nowhere with no real justifications. Like, you can see Tyre moving on the ground, but what he's doing is squirming because he's writhing in pain, and it's like no justification be using lethal force, or at least lethal force in the slightest bit.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, it's pretty ridiculous. I think that's pretty safe to say. We counted at least 10 either punches or kicks or slashes with the baton, right? So that seems rather unnecessary for a guy who is presumably unarmed, with at least 4 or 5 other officers within vicinity at this point. So
yeah.
What's the third video you got here for us?
This is a body cam from from one of the officers at the second location, and there's audio after a minute, so we can hear what's going on and see the status of this of Tyre up and close.
Oh, nice.
So we can get a better picture of what's going on. I think this officer uses a baton, and so we can better see what happens with that baton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
Good stuff.
Again,
All right.
graphic warning, this is a lot closer than that other video, so you're going to see a lot more detail than you did before, because this is up and close.
Yep.
Okay.
All righty, here we go. So this is the third video.
So we don't have audio for the first minute, so he's just driving in.
Yep.
Let's fast forward 30 seconds. Let's fast forward another
Still
50
driving.
seconds.
Yep. Still driving. So now he's on foot. He's running towards the scene, presumably.
Okay. So we've got a blurred out thing there because they don't want us to see that officer.
Interesting. Okay, so he's kind of just... Oh, so he runs up to him now. Oh, yeah.
There's a pepper spray.
Yep. So it looks like they were hitting him while he was on the ground there. Now that we could see their hands up and close. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I also just wanted to note really quickly, he just called out for his mom. The audio isn't playing, but he just called out.
Not?
Right
Is it not playing? Let me go here. Stop sharing. Let me present. Screen share.
That's interesting.
But yeah, it looked like there was a little fight going on there. They were throwing hands up close. You couldn't see it from the far away street cam, but from the body cam they were.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
You hear the audio now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me your hands, bro.
So they're obviously asking him to just give him their hand, or give them his hands to arrest him, to put the cuffs on him. And he's not. So now they're pepper spraying him.
Yep.
Oh shit!
They're all getting sprayed with the pepper spray.
Yep. So it sounds like one of them said that he got him, so they got the cuffs on.
I don't think so. I think in the video later it doesn't show the cuffs on, but I'm not 100% certain.
Or maybe he's talking about he got the other
Still
officer.
saying give them the hands. So no, they don't have the cuffs on yet.
Yeah, so he probably just meant that he got the other officer with his pepper spray.
Yep.
Give me a hand. Turn around. Lay back. Lay back, goddamn. All right. Lay back, goddamn. Lay back. Lay back. Lay back, goddamn. Shit.
Okay, let's fast forward to Smidgen.
Get the fuck out you. Get the fucking
Oh,
hands.
So he has the baton.
Oh, so this is a baton officer.
Give the hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is him in the
He
back.
hit him
Andreas, can you
again.
rewind a little bit?
Give us that.
Sure. Let's go.
Like a little bit more. Yeah, there.
Okay, right there. Okay.
Yeah. Because right now he's just pushed on the hood of the car,
Yeah.
grabs out his baton,
Baton the
and then
fuck out you.
there he goes.
Yes. Watch out. Come on.
It looks like they've got a cuff on one hand.
Give us the hands.
Okay.
Give us the hands. Same location.
And he's hitting him in the back when they're trying to get the cuffs.
Watch it.
And that guy just punched him in the face. Not justified.
No.
Give me your hand. Give me your fucking hand. Give me your hand, motherfucker. Give me your hand.
So they've only still got one cuff on him.
Ross and Castlegate. We are east of the intersection.
Wow, this man is gassed.
Yeah. It's a lot of energy. If you guys have done karate or something like that, these little fights, they take a lot out of you.
Oh, I believe it.
You know.
Here you can hear more backup coming in.
Yep. There's more cops coming.
Right here. 2930. The Castlegate and Bear Creek.
There's more officers coming in.
Yeah, so now there are 2, it looks like marked officers who have now pulled up.
Man, me too. Tase them. Hey, can you get my car, please? Fuck.
I think that might be the rest of the video.
Trying to put the baton back in.
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
now after they do have the cuffs on him now, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now
Let's
everyone's
fast
kind
He's
of
just going to get his car now, yeah.
No, he's going to go pee is what people are saying. That's why they blurred everything out. Because the whole
really?
screen goes blurry. And then you can hear the water, and then he goes back.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Not important, but that's that video. Did you guys see anything of note that you want to talk about for just a minute while I get this next video up?
I mean, it was interesting to see the more up close and personal aspect of it, right? So, excuse me. Yeah, so we did get to see there that it seems like he just wasn't listening, and they were getting a little bit frustrated with that, and they decided to just beat him into submission, effectively, literally. So, I mean, there's really nothing else that you can really take away from that other than just like, wow, okay, then. I get it's frustrating, but still, like, what you doing? It's not necessary.
I just wanted to bring up how, like, the officer, after, like, just reeling from the pepper spray, like, that was a copious amount of pepper spray. He sprayed Tyre, like, twice, I believe, for a prolonged period of time, both times. But he has both hands on the hood of the car, then comes up and just instantly pulls out his baton. You can see all of the officers. They know the force that's coming. All 3 of them on Tyre back up, and this kind of thrust Tyre into the center of them, which opens up that invitation. They're all willingly allowing this batoning to happen, or this beating to happen.
I think they're mad, right? Which is something that nobody's really talking about. Is all these officers are mad that this guy's resisting.
Yeah.
And so as time goes on, they get more and more aggressive, it seems, right? Until eventually they subdue him. And so, that's just what it is. And that's the human element of these officers, is they're getting angry. At least that's my read of what's going on. And they're not making good decisions.
Yeah,
oh no,
right?
I mean that's a very easy read to make here, obviously, right? They're very clearly frustrated. I don't think any of them wanted to spend their whatever evening it was trying to arrest a guy and have him resist their arrest. So that would be very frustrating, I think, if I was in their position. Now, obviously, it doesn't justify the fact that they beat him into submission, but I mean, you can definitely understand the human element here. It's late. It's like 8:30. They're really not happy about how this situation has developed, and he's not listening still. He's still resisting them, right? So now they've had enough. So,
and they're all pepper sprayed, right? They're all doing things because their eyes are in pain.
mm-hmm.
So their decision making has gone completely out the door.
Oh
at
yeah,
least in my read.
Oh yeah, so they've been pepper sprayed by themselves. They've had to run after this guy. They've had to wrestle with him just to get him in cuffs, even before they initially started using the excessive force. So they're tired, they're frustrated, they're upset, and that definitely did contribute a significant amount to their response in this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's share this last video here, and then we'll talk about our response. So let's do that.
So thus far we've seen 3 videos. We saw the first video, which was the body cam footage from the initial argument between Nichols and officers at the stoplight when he was in the left turn lane. Then he takes off. And the second video we saw was the street camera view of the incident of Tyre being beaten up and having excessive force used against him. And then the third video, we saw the body cam footage from one of the officers who was up close and personal while he was being beaten for that second time. So this fourth one it's
another police worn camera at the second location. There's not going to be audio for the first minute, so let's take a look and see what we see, and then we'll talk about it. Now that we've seen the evidence, right? We want to see before we really talk about it, right? Because otherwise we're just reading the news headline and using somebody else's talking points for whatever we're looking at. So here we go. So let's fast forward to the driving because I don't think that's important for us.
He's driving, running again.
Okay,
This is the one
okay.
that gets him. Okay.
So this is the one. This is the officer that gets him. So I think Gavin, you're talking about before that you didn't see the video, or didn't know if there's a video of them actually getting it. So let's rewind because I think I went a little too far forward. So let's see if we can get him when he gets out of the car. So he's going out of the car right here. Then he's sprinting. Sorry for people if there's too much motion. And then he's going to shove him, is what it looks like. Right here. He shoves him down.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, and he's hitting him with his hands. And then so we still see he's resisting them. These cops are getting angry. There's a taser employed.
Yep.
You can't really see anything that's happening here.
Yeah, not
Let's
right
see if we
now.
could fast forward till we could see something.
We're still going. It's still something in front of it. I don't know what it is.
Okay, here we go. So I think that the body cam must have fallen
Are you looking for your
off
glasses, bro?
because this is
yeah.
probably this guy. Here we go.
Oh, did his body camera fall off?
Yep.
Oh.
So you see how bloody and beaten this guy is here in the bottom corner.
Yes.
But you could here. Let me rewind just a smidgen. But you see, even in the first video, right? We see that some of these officers. Wait for it. There's a guy that's going to come up from this side over here. Right? These officers here, they're wearing hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that gets back to my point at the beginning, where these officers aren't wearing stuff that's guaranteeing them to be officers, at least with the first pullover, because I believe that guy was wearing a hoodie as well. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, they've got armor on now though, so it's a little bit more distinctive.
Turn around.
Yep.
He snatched them motherfuckers out, took our run. Hell yeah. Fuck, man. Yeah, I'm straight.
Okay. What's important here is they kept the body camera on the whole time. And if I remember correct, they're going to start talking about amongst themselves what happened as they tell it.
Yeah.
So they don't think they've done anything wrong. And they're going to say from their point of view what happened. So I think it's important to listen to what these officers are going to say, because one of the officers is going to say that he was reaching for the gun and all sorts of other stuff. And we can compare that perception of what they were going through to the videos we just saw to see, how true or untrue that those statements are, even as they're talking amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm Come on, son. Y'all want me to bring him down there? No, I'm not bringing dude. Man, hell. Bring him down there. My mama I got sprayed. Oh, yeah, my shit's burning. I just re-opened my shit back up, bro. What? My leg, bro. My knee.
So they're just kind of talking right now.
Yeah.
See, open the door. Is he wiping his face?
Yeah, he took our running as soon as I seen him wiping his face, bro.
Hold on, where y'all see him?
Right here. He was running through the yard, bro. This why I got
I was
him.
like, I said he ain't. I couldn't see no more. Boy, you said that. We went through there. Yeah.
See, now they're
I said,
talking
"Ball
about
head,
what
dog."
happened in
Then he
there.
started running, bro.
You saw he was wiping his face. He wiped his face. So that's it.
So is he out over here?
Like, you can't right on top.
Say that again, Chris?
Is he out? Is Tyre like just passed
No,
out?
he's conscious, it looks like, on the side of the car, but barely.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. I see y'all. I see his ass run.
You can't right on time. As soon as I took his ass to the
So
ground.
I like fuck my leg, bro. I know I'm gonna feel this shit.
Bro, my shit been hurting all day, but when I seen that boy running, bro, that motherfucker ain't start hurting no more, bro. Yes, bro. Camera's on. Come on, fuck over here.
There's the paramedic in the background there.
Yeah.
I believe these paramedics got fired because they didn't really do treatment. Immediately once they arrived, they just kind of stared at him for a while, if I remember from what I read earlier.
What the fuck wrong
Yeah, I guess we're about to see.
Shit. My shit off the channel like a motherfucker.
I see bean tractor right here. I ain't want my light in.
Yeah, where my light go, bro?
He got high as a kite.
So he's barely talking, that guy. You heard his weird moans.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, bro. I hit it, bro. Bro.
You know what they were? Hell no, I ain't get. Hey, hold on. Let me put my shit. Man, I was hitting him with spray.
Did he take his camera off here?
Yeah, I put it on the back of the car.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. It doesn't make much sense. I mean, not that there's really much happening right now, but still.
Man, I'm telling you, bro.
Yeah. I'm not hearing what I heard earlier with them talking about the guy reaching for the gun and stuff like that.
That comes later.
It does. Okay.
So now we got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got like 10 police here.
Yeah. I think that's what the report I read said. Is there's 10 officers that were standing around doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's this right here is the 10 officers standing around and doing nothing.
Yeah, cause to them they've got this completely under control, right? So now that he's not resisting anymore, they feel like they've done their job.
Wait, Andreas, rewind. I think he just said about the gun.
Oh, did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right here.
He on me, dog. Fuck, bro. Man, they need to give me some saline. We got spray. Everybody got spray. I spray, he spray, hip heel tase, he jump up, chef tase, then he was going with he full of not dope, he full of dog. Then he was going for a gun too. So I'm like, he grabbed one gun.
Yeah, they're saying he grabbed the gun. And you see here, this going back to my point. Look, this is a sweatshirt. I feel like you could buy this sweatshirt at like, your local whatever store.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like an NYPD store, right?
Mm-hmm. That's not, I mean, yeah. For anybody who's listening to this and can't see, it's just a hoodie that says police and then with the police department logo on it. So yeah, Andreas is exactly right. It feels like you could pretty much purchase this anywhere you wanted to that sells this type of merchandise. There's a completely valid reason as to why he might not at first believe that these are police. Pulling up in unmarked cars, wearing hoodies like this, there's definitely reason for suspicion on his behalf. Looking at everything now as it is, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. See, I'm not comfortable with that sweatshirt and that unmarked police car. It makes me very not comfortable, just in general. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Man, listen. I ain't even look. We got him out the car. We was like, "Hey, bro, you good?" Motherfucker swung. Wow, almost hit me. You reached for Mark's gun. Then when he slammed to the car, you were on.
Well, they said he reached for their gun. One of the officers.
And then they slammed into the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that car is this car right here that they slammed him into. Yeah, we didn't really get a good view of that, except in the overhead. And I don't remember them slamming him into the car. It's kind of crowded on screen, so I don't know if they actually did.
I think they were talking about the initial pullover. He was saying, "Get out the car," and he's saying he was grabbing for his gun.
Okay.
And they initially pulled him.
So is this the original guy then, in the original pullover?
I'm pretty sure.
Because the original guys weren't charged, if I remember correct. I think you said that already.
It was the first video that we watched was of a white officer.
Was it?
It was, yeah. He didn't get charged. I'm not sure if the other guys did or didn't, though.
Okay. Yeah, because that guy was arresting, and they just tased him, and that didn't work. And they sprayed themselves in the face with pepper spray. Hence the water bottle incident.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck me, man.
I don't know what that means. And he's strong.
He's strong as a motherfucker.
Mind that motherfucker so good.
Hold on a second. It's the goat, bro. That's more than goat. That's more than goat. He's caught strong and hot. That's what it is.
Hold on. You trying to stand up on
So they muted some stuff. They're probably talking about personal details.
What was he driving?
Mm-hmm.
It's called. They got his ID right there.
He be running?
He ain't got shit.
No, he ain't got shit. He ain't got nothing in the car. Unless he threw it when on his way running. He ran so goddamn far.
I don't know. That might. I don't know if he didn't have none.
Okay. You guys fine if we fast forward a little bit?
Yeah, go for it. They're just kind of talking right now.
Got him right here.
Debriefing, reacting to the whole thing themselves.
Yeah, they're talking about him wiping his face while he was running.
Oncoming traffic. So we tried to. I'm talking about he did. Yes, all this trip. So we tried to get him stopped. He didn't stop. We still instead of trying to get him stopped, hit the siren. Stop. That man drove around, swerved like he finna hit my car. So then I'm like, God damn, man, what are we doing? He pulled up to the red light, stop at the red light, put his turn signal on. So we jump out the car.
So that explains why they were so aggressive pulling him out of the car, because he wasn't pulling over. So when they hit that red light, they ran out of the car and pulled him out of the car, Gavin. If that answers your question to begin with.
Man, I sure lost my flashlight, bro. Dang.
Okay, they muted the
I got my
audio
shit in
down.
my pocket. Oh, where you was at, bro? Where you was at, Smith? Where you was at?
Y'all be safe.
All right, man.
I'm trying to see that shit now, bro.
Yeah, so they're just wandering around now. Is there anything else that happens in this video?
Let me see.
There, yeah.
So they're
You can
still
just-
not really treating him there. There's just the EMTs kind of watching.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
Hey, Luke.
Oh,
Yeah,
this
it's
is the officer that was peeing then, not the other guy.
Yeah.
If you heard the sound, it's peeing in somebody's fence. Very nice. Good work.
Fantastic. Good job, buddy.
Protecting
Oh,
our
man.
property.
Yeah. There you go. How about that? I guess all the running does something to you, doesn't it? Dang. But yeah, I mean, that's that. That's the incident summarized pretty well. In about 4 videos, we got a lot of different perspectives out of that. I guess it's now time to turn the chapter or turn the page to a new question, which is what can we learn from this and how can we respond? But before we hop into that, obviously, this is your reminder to like, share, and subscribe. And another thank you to anybody who's watching this live right now on YouTube or Twitch, and anybody who's listening to this post-recorded on any podcasting platforms or just YouTube live streams recorded. So with that said, guys, what can we learn from this? Who wants to kick us off with that?
Gavin, you want to start?
I just wanted to add on a little bit more before we switch gears. I just wanted to talk about the protests that happened after they released the videos. In specific, I want to talk about the one in LA. So the videos were posted, and protests just spawned all over the nation. Like in Memphis, they shut down a bridge. I believe it was I-55. They shut it down for 3 hours for peacefully disbanding. But in LA, they were holding a vigil for Tyre. And then at the vigil marched over to the LAPD headquarters. After a little while, they tore down the barricades while they were calling for abolition of police with chants of "Whose streets? Our streets." And eventually, by I believe the initial vigil was held around 8 p.m. But by around 10 p.m., there was a line of police and riot gear surrounding the entire building.
Do you want to see if you could find that video and pull it up so we could show our viewers?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it really quickly.
So while he's doing that, I have some takeaways here, at least for us. We shouldn't stand for this violent action, right? This is not something that we should support, right? That every single one of those hits I saw, except maybe the baton in the back, which I don't even think is good anyways, wasn't justified. The lethal force was not justified. So, it was wrong what happened. And we shouldn't just support just to support, because I know a bunch of people on the right side are just going to say we're going to stand with the blue in this scenario, but I didn't see anything that was good in what occurred. And if you're not able to, on the right or on the left, be able to call out evil or wrong, right, then you're not doing what you need to do, right? So that's my very, very basic initial assessment of what our response should be. Is we should be able to say what happened here was wrong, and not just say, okay, this is what this is okay because thin blue line. Hey, Gavin, if you have it.
Yeah, do you want me to share my screen?
Just share
or
your
I
screen.
sent the. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have it, just share your screen. You got that authority. It's not just me who has to click all the buttons.
Hashtag all buttons authority. Share anything they want to authority.
So here is the article I found. It showcases just some general pictures. But here you can see the protesters initially gathering.
Yep.
Here's more of this is the best picture of the riot police line. This is the video.
Mm-hmm.
That's just more of where they're chanting and marching over to the headquarters.
Right.
This is someone spray painted. This is the right outside the police department headquarters. It's Los Angeles Police Department headquarters. Kills is someone spray painted that on. And then here is more of the actual confrontation.
Yeah.
But it didn't escalate into anything severe.
What's that thing that looks like smoke there in the background? Can you make this small video full screen?
Yeah.
Is that smoke or is that just, what is that? You see,
There was smoke deployed, I believe.
Okay. Or is that just a side wall of a building? It's a building wall. It's not smoke. Okay.
Okay. It's just a building being hidden by trees. No biggie. In this instance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's really kind of what that protest was.
Did you have the video of them tearing down the barricades?
I did not have that video. No.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Good.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless we have any other videos, I'm interested to think. I think Gavin, you were gonna say what you learned from this.
I mean, I just wanted to. The only thing I really wanted to talk about was just how this is. I just kind of wanted to tie it back to the Uvalde shooting. There were swarms of police there, but none of them did anything. And here we see that again. And I just kind of I want to add on the description of what this specific police unit was called. It was the Scorpion Unit, which stands for Street Crimes Operations to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. And I just kind of want to point out the irony in that naming and how they're not doing that necessarily. They're not keeping our streets safe or restoring peace, and kind of seems like a little bit of the opposite in this instance. And I just want to, the big thing that I want to just say is just what can we do to really because this is obviously wrong. What can we do to like make it so something like this doesn't happen again? Like, what can we do as a society to make it so our police are actually policing us and not oppressing us, which was one of the official charges, by the way. Official oppression.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Well, police, they don't have a duty to protect us, as we talked about with Uvalde, right? And so my opinion, and police should be moved back towards a more investigatory role. And I think active policing is not something that's good in all circumstances, because that's when you get something like this, right? But you can't completely get rid of the police, right? You can't send a social worker to go and stop this car here. Imagine if Tyre it was drugged out and began attacking the officers, right? Which I didn't see in this video, where you can't put a social worker there. So we should, I don't know. I'm just thinking, if they don't have a duty to protect, why do we keep trying to make them more and more aggressive in their policing when that's not their role? You know what I'm saying?
And to add on to that a little bit, to add on, the really interesting aspect about this case is that all of the officers arrested were black. So this really wasn't a racially motivated thing. This was something else entirely. It seems like with the unmarked police vehicles, the ramping up of the aggression of the attacks, it almost seems like a little bit of a power thing, which shouldn't be what policing is. It should be more of, there is something happening, let's stop it, versus actively trying to make things worse. And that really just seems what the police are doing now.
Well, the police are always the enforcement arm of the state, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're the violence of the state is what they will always be, and that's something that people forget. We think they'll be good officers, and they won't do these things. Well, those good officers often quit, right? Because they don't want to be that enforcement. I remember, was it a year or two ago, right, where the officers in Canada went and they took Artur Pawlowski, and they dragged him through the street because he was holding church services, right? And they dragged him across the street, and then they threw him in solitary confinement for days. Right, and that was just what they were. So Gavin, it is kind of a state, right, saying that you shouldn't be allowed to do this reckless driving, and then them using all the force that they have in order to prevent that reckless driving, right? As I stated at the beginning, right, every law at the end of the day gets enforced with a bullet, and then in this case, as I stated earlier, that bullet's a baton in this case.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, the whole thing, I'm glad Gavin brought up the point that this is really the fact that the officers are black or the African American. It does go to show rather that these incidents are more so a brutality issue and less so a race issue. We like to paint these incidents from the perspective of, oh man, white cop shot and killed a black unarmed civilian or black armed civilian. Either way, it gets put in a manner where the highlight is on the race of the officers and not the actions that were taken based on the actions that were taken by the person who was the victim. So it's important that we do realize that these issues, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, are going to probably be more so an issue of the officers responding, not because they're like, oh, this person's of the opposite race, but just because they're like, this situation is not developing very well for me, and they start to feel threatened. And that kind of goes into the other takeaway that I had from this is that people tend to act irrationally when put in tough scenarios. So you asked what we can do as a society to limit the amount of times that these types of instances happen. Well, there you go. just we have to do a better job of limiting the amount of tough scenarios that we put our law enforcement officers in. And that, I mean, it does start with us, and there is some responsibility on their end too. Like we were talking about several times throughout this reaction, right? The fact that the cops did use unmarked cars, and they were wearing hoodies that look like they look like something that you could buy from like a store. That doesn't really paint a very good picture for the victim in this instance. So they tend to get scared. And since they're scared, they tend to be less likely to listen because they're scared. And when they're less likely to listen, the officers tend to get a little bit more antsy and act more rationally. So it's a whole chain of events that's set off here. So I think ultimately we can learn that officers need to do a better job of being transparent. They shouldn't be trying to mask the fact that they're police officers so much. I don't think the whole unmarked thing is really beneficial for them and their reputation in the cities that they're enforcing in. And at the same time, we have to do our part too as citizens. If an officer, given that they're clearly marked and you do know that they are an officer, engages you in any way, shape, or form, just listen. Like if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Don't give them a reason to act irrationally and by putting them in a tough scenario that they were not expecting to be put in.
Yeah. Yep. With that, don't talk to the police, right? Get your lawyer.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the most applicable tie-in we've had thus far.
Yeah.
But this also gets to something I was thinking about even before this event occurred about city police departments, right? They're often appointed by the mayor or by some city statute. And it's not like, a county sheriff, right, which are voted in and are beholden to the voters, right? You can't really hold this department responsible in the same way that you can make an elected sheriff responsible, right? And I that's just something that we have in a lot of our cities, right, where it's city police. Right, and their authority is what they're supposed to follow the city council and the mayor, right? And maybe there's a chance there's an elected police commissioner, but not always. So there's nobody at the top where you can say this sheriff's policies are not good and we should remove them, and then the new sheriff is going to campaign on changes to how policing's done, right? It's a greater distance. That's just something I was thinking about. I don't know. I don't have a lot of research into what I'm saying, but this is just what I was thinking about even before this occurred. I think I was thinking about this. I started thinking about this when what was it? Was it Chauvin? I think so. When Chauvin happened, and that was what is it? The Brooklyn, is it Brooklyn City? What was that town? It's not Minneapolis. It's like right on the edge of Minneapolis, and it sounds like it's a city supposed to be in New York.
Something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I know what you're talking about.
But it was like a city to police department, right? It wasn't the sheriff's office, right? There was no. It's not like you can hold the elected official there responsible for the actions of Derek Chauvin. It also, thinking about this, right? Gavin, you stated that there was an excessive force on one of these officers, right? From when he was doing corrections. And if I remember correct, Chauvin had, 5 instances, right, of aggressive action that wasn't justified before. And it's the police unions that were keeping them employed, and that, and they were using that in order to keep them employed regardless of their previous actions. And that's something that should be corrected, right? At least in my opinion, it should be. I'm not a big fan of unions for government work in general. I'm more so a fan for private. But for government, what's their purpose there, right? The union's supposed to make sure that you're getting a fair wage and all of that other stuff, that comes with a union for specific union jobs. But, with government work, right, it's usually given by statute how much they get paid. and they're really only there for political means and for, almost protecting government employees from their actions, it seems. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on that. Just talking just generally about what's going on.
Yeah, really quickly, I wanted to add on to your first point about unelected police forces. There was an interesting statistic that I found that most of the police deaths caused, there are about like 1,000 or so every year. Most of them are never reported on. And with this specific unit, it was disbanded like a couple hours before recording this episode. But that was because this is a national event. Otherwise, if they're not like, that's the only part of democracy that holds these police units accountable is the media. And when the media is not actually focusing on these things, then nothing really gets done. It's just basically the governor's violent hand. It's like the state violence, but it's not put in power by us, the people.
Or city.
Yeah, or the city. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But it doesn't seem very democratic to me. But that's all I have to say. And I just like, unlike the police, like the police unions, especially on that, it doesn't, just looking from a historical standard, if you pay people, like, if you don't pay your like civil or like a military or like a civil military, which is what police essentially are, they don't do good. They tend to do really bad things, because it doesn't attract the people that are good. Like, a good person goes after a good wage, and if you're not giving them a good wage, the people who just need to kind of scrape by, not the people that you want to be police. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I was listening. Was it potentially Criminal Sean? This was a long time ago. It might have been Andrew Branca. And they were talking about how when a police officer gets involved with the use of force incident, right, and it's justified, what they're going to do because of the risk to the department is they're going to bench that police officer and make them do paperwork. So a lot of these instances that we're seeing with police, right, where it's the police and a civilian interaction that did not go well, it's the first time they've had that incident. So you're not having experienced cops that know how to handle these police incidents, interact with the populace, right? Let's say that you've got your cop, that's been through, 3 or 4, violent encounters with dangerous people. They're going to know how to handle themselves better than somebody who's doing this for the first time and is going to get mad and frustrated because they've never done it before. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. So you're benching your veteran cops because they had an incident, and you're leaving it to rookies. I don't know if these guys were rookies or not, but
they were hired earlier in the year.
Yeah. And then they're rookies, and they end up doing they end up not knowing how to handle it. If I remember correct, was it the Aaron Dean trial? Was it Fort Worth, Texas, where there's an officer. He was, I think it was 6 months out of the academy and on his own, right? He passed all of his, ride-alongs and all that stuff. And then he went to that open structure call, right? And a woman pointed a gun at him, and he ended up shooting that woman dead, African-American lady. And this was his first encounter with something like that. He ended up getting, 10 years in prison for it. I watched that whole trial. I disagree with that sentence and that charge, because, the second that she pulled that gun up to shoot him, I think that was justified, right? Because, if he waited a second longer, she would have shot him. But, they're rookies that are ending up in this situation. Right now, we've got an officer, Aaron Dean, in prison for 10 years because, this is, he wasn't experienced. If and his backup, his partner in that situation was also new. I think she was out of training for like 3 weeks, right? Let's say there was a more experienced officer with them, right? So that it was Aaron Dean and somebody that, was with the force for 15 years that have been through open structure calls before. Maybe they would have made better decisions that would have prevented that woman from losing her life and him having to pull the trigger, right? Because there are several things that he could have done different when approaching that open structure call that he didn't. At least that's what the prosecutor said. Prosecutors will always say, you could have done something different, but maybe there was something really that he could have done different if there's a more experienced officer with him, rather than a 3-week-old out of training and then him being 6 months out or something like that, and having to deal with that. Or maybe in this situation where you have somebody that's was out for 10 years, right, and is with them and says, okay, you guys don't know how to handle this suspect, right? I've been doing this for 10 years and I haven't been put on the bench, right, because I was involved, and maybe we can handle this more efficiently without punching and kicking this guy in the head, right? So that's that experience we're losing because our cities think it's too high liability to keep officers that even did the right thing in a violent encounter off the streets, right? If you had to use violence and it was justified and correct and IA and everybody says you did what was right, I don't think you should be taken off, because now you've got experience that you can give to other officers when something happens, so that they're not completely blind to the action.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're there responding with them. I don't know. That's just some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I fully agree. Yeah. I don't really have much to add on to that because you said it perfectly, but go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was going to deflect it to you because you seemed like you had something to say. So I was like, oh, no.
Oh, well, yeah. No, I think that, I didn't actually know that was happening. I feel like it's incredibly stupid that, if you need the experience for a job like this because it's not something that's super well. You can't really train for a super
practice for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you take all that experience right out of the force. Of course, bad things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We need some reform there. At the end of the day, I think just tying it back to the question I asked earlier, we just need some police reform. We need better education, better pay for these people so we don't have to put them in unions. We need to mark all of the police cars so, people are aware they're being pulled over by legitimate police. And that just that brings back a really stupid memory. I remember I was driving home from Oklahoma. I was driving home on I-70, and guy in a big truck with police lights pulls up behind me, but it was an unmarked vehicle, so I'm like, oh shoot. So I got out of the way. The guy he just had the police lights in there to move traffic out of the left lane so he could go fast. As unmarked police vehicles just open up those abuses of power, and what good do they serve? Anybody. At the end of the day, it's nobody. It's just it serves to keep us in a little bit of fear, and that's not what we should be living by.
Yeah, unless they're doing a sting, right, on a drug house or some sort of trafficking ring. Yeah, that's the only time I can see it be justified that the police is unmarked, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to go to some gang hideout or whatever, and bust them all,
Yeah.
That's the only reason, because otherwise they'd probably have some warning system. If they have cops, they're going to flee or tamper with the evidence, but that's the only good instance. Otherwise, there's a lot we need to do for a police department, and this just doesn't bode well. It does not bode well at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, those are all very good points, and that gives us a lot to think about as a society, for sure. But now we got to tie in our aspect. So how can we respond to instances like this, and how can we keep ourselves out of positions like the one that Tyre was in?
Keep ourselves out of it. Well, I don't know if he's drunk or whatever he's doing. First off, if you're under the influence of anything, we don't know if he was or not. Don't drive erratically and don't drive, right? But if you are being arrested and they are cops, just stop resisting, and deal with it in the courts later. the one thing that Tyre didn't have that we know, right, is he didn't know if those were officers or not because of the stupid hoodies. At least that's my opinion of it.
Mhm.
So we need to just not resist. Like at that center encounter point, right? When they were definitely cops wearing full, not regalia, because that's when they wear their dress uniforms, but all of the armor and all that stuff, right? You shouldn't continue resisting at that point, because that's just going to make those cops angrier, and then they're going to do stuff that's against the law, and hurt you in that situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the takeaway for me personally, first and foremost, is obviously we should obey the authority in our lives, right? I mean, as Christians, we're called to respect the authorities that God has placed in our lives, unless, of course, they're asking us to do something irrational or immoral, or that is against God's word. So respecting the authority in our lives, I mean, just doing what they're saying, assuming they aren't asking us to do something immoral. Like if the cop is going to pull you over, that's not necessarily an immoral activity, right? So I think the least we can do there is just listen to authorities when it makes sense to do so, regardless of how we feel, whether we feel like we're being treated appropriately or inappropriately. Just listen. It definitely goes a long way, towards keeping ourselves out of situations like this, right? We should not be letting other people dictate our situation to the best that we can. To the best that we are able to dictate for ourselves, whether we stay safe or what situations we put ourselves in. It's definitely important that we keep ourselves out of the, not authority, because we do want to obey authority, but we want to keep ourselves from people using their authority to harm us, beyond the necessary means. So I think those are my two primary takeaways: is that we need to obey authority, assuming they're not asking us to do anything immoral, and we just need to not put our lives into the hands of other imperfect people like us.
Yeah, and like to add on to that a little bit, I feel like there is something admirable of like resisting unjust authority, but that's something that, like as you said, God put all of the authority on earth there for a reason. There are instances in the Bible where God's people, like in Daniel, they resisted the authority and God was there with them. But in this instance, while it is very admirable, like the entire time you can see Tyre, he's resisting. He has that human drive to keep going, to keep fighting. But at some point, we can't idolize that anymore. We can't idolize that fight, because that fight gets you in the hospital, unjustly so. And like Andreas was saying, like, fight it in the courts later. God will be with you there. Don't put your own life at risk for it. And just like that's, and also another thing that I wanted to add on. This isn't because most of the incident here with Tyre was wrongdoing on the police's part, and the only thing that we can really do there is just to not resist them. Don't resist the authority, but don't drive like an idiot at the end of the day. Just don't do it. Drive like Jesus is watching you, because he is. Like, don't cut people off. Don't be driving erratically. Check yourself before you get in your car. You know how it feels to have those things happen to you. You know how it feels to have someone swerving into your lane or getting in front of you and cutting you off. Just don't do it.
So the whole thing that was a popular saying, what was it back in like the 90s, I think it was, what would Jesus do? WWJD.
Yeah.
Well, now we're
What would
transforming
Jesus do?
it's evolving now. So it's not just what would Jesus do, it's HWJD. How would Jesus drive? That's the new evolution of the saying. So just think about that anytime you're thinking about doing something stupid while driving a vehicle. What I just say? HWJD, HWJD, HWJD. Don't forget it.
Yeah. And I just want to, point something out just to the audience, right? We're talking about things that you can do, right? Because you can't control others. You can't go and be the police, right? You only have control over yourself. right? You can't just say, okay, well, I should be allowed to do these things because they shouldn't be able to do those other things. Well, you can't control them, right? So you've only got control of you. So that's how you should respond is I have control over me, so I'm going to do what I can in this situation, right? And then maybe I also have control over who I vote for and, policies and things like that. And maybe those other issues get fixed there, right? Because right now, it's just control over yourself. So, you can't do anything about what these officers do. So just do, I guess, as the millennials say, just do you, right? But do you in a way that gets you home at the end of the day in the situation, right? If you're being hit by these officers, just stop and realize if I keep resisting, I might not make it home, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All in his will and all in his timing, right? So we should not be trying to interfere with anything that we don't have to. And it'll just make life better for us and for everybody around us. Any other closing thoughts here?
No, I'm good. Like, share, and subscribe. Right? We got to say it one more time. We want to start a discussion here in the chat. Soon as we get more and more people in the chat, we'll be able to talk with you guys and truly have a conversation about these topics. Because this would have been a good opportunity for us to talk with you guys. So hopefully next week we see you guys hanging out there in the chat with us and chatting along. Like, share, and subscribe. We're every single Saturday at 6:30 Mountain. And then again at 7:45 Mountain. We're going to be late for that one because we're still chatting here. So we look forward to seeing you in the next stream. We're talking Johnny Depp in about 10-15 minutes. And in our 2022 recap. We've got one more recap after Johnny Depp. So we look forward to seeing you in the next stream here. See you in a bit.
Gavin, any closing thoughts, sir?
Oh yeah, no, YouTube viewers out there, stick around for the next one. We hope to talk to you then. That's all I got. Like, comment, and subscribe.
There you go. Like, comment, subscribe. And just like Gavin and Andreas said, if you're listening to this post-recorded, you're going to want to go check out the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard episode. It'll be a good one. That was a big topic from the year 2022, and we're looking very forward to breaking it all down for you all. But in the meantime, thank you for listening to this episode. We will see you on the next episode. For Andreas and Gavin, peace out.
Peace.